So once again, huge thanks to our partners at Pulmuone for their support on putting on this year's Global Plant Forward Summit. I'm very excited to welcome Ellen Kim, who's the Director of Marketing and Communications for Pulmuone, who will introduce our next presenter.
Hello, good morning. So my name is Ellen Kim. I'm the Director of Marketing Communications for Pulmuone. I'm here to introduce you to Chef Judy Joo. So she came all the way here from London last night, and then we had a great dinner last night. Are you awake, Judy?
I am.
Ready to go? Okay, so she's gonna demonstrate some of the amazing, tasty plant-based recipes today. So I hope you guys are gonna enjoy that. She is based in London, owns a restaurant called Soulbird, and it's specializing in Korean food and flavors. So when you do get a chance to stop by London, please let her know. And then there will be a book signing event during the lunchtime, so please do stop by. And yeah, join me in welcoming Chef Judy Joo today.
Very excited to come just because I am a massive fan of plant-based foods, and I was very excited to try some of these Pulmuone products because a lot of the products that I had tried before didn't quite taste right, or I felt that they were too processed. And as a business, actually, because I wasn't happy with some of the plant-based, I guess like fake meats out there, we decided originally just to go with just a mushroom burger for our vegan and vegetarian offering, but now as the technology is getting better and better, and more companies like Pulmuone are coming out with products like this that are less processed, and we are becoming happier to try to incorporate them into our menus. And it's quite fun being an ethnic chef right now and being quite global as I am. I often describe myself as a French-trained Korean-American Londoner, so I'm really spanning the globe when it comes to my influences, and I think that's part of what makes cooking these days so incredibly interesting, is that people are pulling spices from around the world. And I have to say, when it comes to plant-forward food, you really need to do that, because a lot of people miss that meat, and a lot of cultures, you know, having lived in London for 18 years now, a lot of times like vegetarian food or or plant-based food is quite challenging because they're not used to that tradition of spice and that tradition of flavor. And a lot of times with keto cooking also, or vegetarian cooking, they're just putting tons of cheese and stuff, and cream and cheese, just because they don't know how else to make things taste good. And all you have to do is just, you know, look across to the Mediterranean or look across to Asia or some of these other, you know, cultures that use spice in such a vibrant and bold way. And Korea obviously is one of these countries that just really smacks you in the face with our cuisine. I like to say that the cuisines and cultures, food definitely reflects the culture. You know, Korean food is quite vibrant and spicy and bold. If you think of kimchi, and I think the people are very much like that too. We kind of wear our hearts on our sleeves, and you know, we're dramatic and fiery, and that's why a lot of our culture is going global right now. I don't know if you've seen like Squid Games or, you know, all of these Korean dramas. They're always quite surprising, and I think that kind of color and that vibrancy and that spice is very much reflected in our food. And so what I'm doing today is a bunch of kind of a mix match of fusion recipes. The first one is using their plant-based Bulgogi, which translates to fire meat, and it is a plant-based product, mostly based of soy. And the texture is actually really interesting. You know, I get sent a lot of these things all the time, and sometimes I'm like, oh, that's not great, or it leaves a funny mouthfeel or things. And this one actually is really nice, just right out of the bag. And but of course, being a chef, I always like to boost flavor and to freshen things up. And so what I've done is I've just kind of boosted the marinade. Whenever you buy a product that has kind of been flavored ahead of time, we as chefs are always just trying to make things a bit better and just to boost that flavor a little bit more. So I actually marinate the meat again just in a typical bulgogi marinade. So that has all of the traditional Korean aromatics of just soy sauce, a bit of sesame oil, some garlic, and some ginger, and a little bit of apple vinegar. Thank you. And of course, because I like to spice things up, I always put a little bit of Korean chilies in there. You can leave this out if you want to. This is gochugaru. This is Korean chili flakes, and I like to put a bit more. So that is optional if you want to, but it's always nice to give a little bit of heat to your food. And gochugaru is not too spicy when it comes to the Scoville scale, so it's kind of smoky as well as earthy, a bit of fruity. And just going to marinate that meat in here a bit more. And, oh, thank you. I'll grab a bite because it's tasty. And yeah, it's nice just out of the package, honestly. And then just mix it. And this just kind of refreshes the flavors and gives it that just kind of like nice tang and makes it just a bit tastier. And this usually we're going to let marinate for about an hour or a little bit more. This one is the back one. Thank you. She knows everything. This is the amazing Rebecca. Nothing would happen without her. And then just a bit of oil is putting that in. And then what's nice also with this product is that you can actually get a good sear on it. Some of these other plant-based products, the ones that I've played around with, my biggest complaint as a chef a lot of the times is that it doesn't behave in the way that you want to when it comes to cooking. Sometimes the texture's too hard, sometimes the texture's too soft, sometimes it's a bit mushy. And so I quite like this product because it actually behaves like meat, which is nice, and you can get that nice sear. And it doesn't seize up also, and it's not mushy, which is great. So we're just gonna create a bit of, and let that warm up a little bit more. And then in the meantime, we've also, in this recipe, created a bit of a fusion salsa. And as everybody knows, Korean food and Mexican food is like a match made in heaven. The flavors meld together beautifully. And I love you. This is like stuff just like appears in front of me. I know, it's so great. It's like, I wish you came around with me in my life. And so this is amazing, gosh. And so I like to use Asian pears. So this is a very Korean product. And Asian pears are round like apples, but they're watery and have that nice kind of crispy, refreshing texture like regular pears, but they're extra crunchy. And we use them a lot in cooking. Traditionally, before Korea had sugar, all of our sweetness came from fruits, and this is one of them that we used to marinate our meats in, etc. And also because it is a fruit, it used to act as a tenderizer also. And that's gonna go. I'm gonna ask you to watch that while I make the salsa. Thank you. If you can watch that one, thank you. So we just have some nice pear, and I like to use that as the base of my salsa because I just think it just adds such a nice kind of texture opposed to having a lot of tomato in there. And then, of course, some just red onion that's been chopped, and then the vegan kimchi. So kimchi, I'm sure you've been hearing, have you guys heard a lot about kimchi already? Do you guys know what it is and everything? So it's basically one of the cornerstones of Korean cooking. You know, traditionally we eat it 365 days a year, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It is a superfood. It's immunity boosting. It's absolutely one of the most vibrant, tangy, umami-filled types of condiments that is out there. Just a little bit of lime. And I'm going to add just a little bit of cilantro also in there, just for some color. And that's just a nice salsa. And you can add tomato to this too if you want to, just a bit more onion. I mean, this is kind of like if you just taste, you can make everything to your own preference. And particularly things like salsas and dressings, just taste. And there are no rules. If you like it, then that's great. Yeah. I feel like it's getting kind of like that nice char on it, which is great. I also like to add a bit of a cooling element. So we have some plant-forward sour cream made of cashews, probably. Nice texture, and I've added to this gochujang, which is the Korean fermented chili paste, which is, again, one of the, I think, wonderful fermented Korean ingredients that has a great amount of umami and flavor, as well as spice. And the thing that I think that a lot of people get to learn with Korean cooking is that not everything is spicy, but one of the great things about it is that it's, I'm going to just get rid of those because they're a bit broken. Yeah, it's like, it's spice, but also with flavor. Yeah, so you're not missing out on that as well. And just some corn tortillas. You can use corn and flour if you want to. But if you look, so you get that nice like barbecue char on this, which is great. So you get that caramelization and a little bit of texture. You can see that gochugaru, that heat from it. That's good. I'm just going to turn that off because that's pretty much ready. And Ready's made already. So super simple recipe. It takes just seconds to put together. And you can just kind of make some tacos. Start out with the base, again, of this meat. I mean, doesn't that just like look like real beef? It's kind of incredible what food engineers can do these days. And you know, it is so much healthier for you. I'm very much into health and wellness, and I myself have had some, you know, kind of autoimmune issues, and just kind of, I mean, everybody has something, right? And I've noticed that when I eat more plant-based foods, that it's, you know, your body is just less inflamed, and you can digest things better, you feel better, and it's less of a tax on your whole system, and it's just nicer, and especially when you can have meat but not have meat, and the protein. And I think it's, as women in particular, you know, it's sometimes hard for us to get enough protein, particularly as we age, and you know, having, you know, a good amount of soy protein is always helpful and necessary. I'm gonna just put some of these on top, just like that. Avocado, some good oils. So you get some of your 5 a day. And you know, I love Mexican food too, because a lot of the ethos is just having a lot of different types of vegetables with meat, and it's all about that rule of 5. I'm down here, of having the 5 colors, the 5 flavors, and the 5 textures with your food, and you know, eating like this, where you have such an array of different preparations. You know, you have something raw, you have something sautéed, you have a bit of fruit, you have something fermented as well. Is such a nice and healthy way to eat, and something that I try to do, which I think makes, you know, kind of Korean food so incredibly different. I love these flowers. This is beautiful. I want to put flowers on all my food and everything to just make it gorgeous. But see, it's tacos, and you're not going to miss any of the meat products, but just super simple and easy. Kind of bunch them up together so they're in a trio, and that's it. But that is really easy, nothing to it. And I think that, you know, getting people to cook more at home is always a challenge. And so just kind of making things accessible and as easy as possible, where you can throw things together without kind of thinking too much, and you have ingredients that aren't too hard to source as well. Here we go. So now, tofu and couscous. So tofu is something that I've been somewhat of a crusader about, because particularly in the West, it's considered like a punishment for vegetarians, and all of like my Caucasian colleagues like hate it. They don't understand it. They think it's a punishment. And I have to say that out there are a lot of like bastardized tofu products out there. They try too much to make it taste like meat. They try to change the texture. They like, marinate it in funny things. And I firmly believe that tofu is a food in its own right. And in Asia, it really is. We eat it with meat all the time. It's sauteed with meat. It's not considered some kind of, vegetarian substitute. And because of that, I think that, people just need to embrace tofu and the different types of that they're out there for what it is, and I think it can be absolutely tasty. I think it's a textural thing, but I think that you can get around that texture in so many different ways, and one of the ways is to have it crispy. So this Tossables product is just a bit kind of crispy fried, and to boost that even more, I just coating it with a bit of cornstarch. And we're just going to fry it on the pan. Just give it a little bit of that caramelization, get that Maillard action going. And this just helps kind of crisp up the edges. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I find that whenever I deep fry tofu in my restaurants and stuff, people like it more. I mean, it's not exactly the healthiest thing because it's fried, but it's better than anything, I guess, versus like the steamed tofu. People just want that textural element to it. I think it's the texture that people have the hardest time with when it comes to tofu. So this we're just gonna fry a bit, put it together. And this is just a super simple couscous salad. You can use other types of whole and ancient grains if you want to. There's so many ancient grains out there that people are kind of experimenting more and playing with. And so this is just some couscous, and also just a really nice dressing. Here we've gone to North Africa and just kind of made a paste using harissa. So this is just a nice harissa, olive oil, lemon. You got to get that citrus, that balance of fat, as well as a bit of spice as well. And just some roasted vegetables. These have just been roasted off in an oven with just some olive oil and some salt and pepper. But you see all these beautiful colors. I always like to say, just like eat a rainbow, and you will be healthy. And this is part of the Korean philosophy of eating the 5 colors and the 5 flavors and the textures every single day. And it's all about balance, I think. So that's going well. And, ooh, just lost a couple, that's fine. And I like to kind of use all different types of spice. And so I'm also going to toss in here some za'atar and some sumac. So sumac is kind of like a citrusy tasting spice from Middle East and Mediterranean regions. And za'atar is just one of the greatest spice mixes out there. It has all kinds of things in it. Every family has their own version. Thank you. And this is just super simple salad on the side, or whatever else you've got going on. And maybe toss some fresh tomatoes in. I mean, here in California, you guys have the best produce ever, so it's not hard to make things that taste good and look absolutely gorgeous and vibrant.
And I just wanted to say, if you have any questions, feel free to shout them out, and then Chef Judy will repeat them for our live streaming audience. But any sort of questions you have about technique, or if you have questions about the product, anything you'd like to know, please feel free.
Just some mint and parsley. I mean, people usually ask me questions why I decided to become a chef, because I had this whole career before as a banker. And I was an engineering major in college and then worked in finance for 5-6 years, actually here in San Francisco in the Bay Area for Morgan Stanley, and had those ridiculous hours of waking up at 3 a.m. in the morning and getting to the office super early. And yeah, and then I left that all behind to go to cooking school and to do what I do now. So I was like, why did you do that? And yeah, obviously my parents were quite shocked and a little bit upset when I did that because it wasn't really in their vocabulary. I like to add almonds and nuts, texture. You always want some good texture. Toasted almonds, you can add some more. I'm also obsessed with olives. So I think that adds just that nice tang and saltiness to get a bit of that brine. But this is just, you know, I mean, a gorgeously colorful salad. I think that's good. Oh yeah, lemon, put some olives in there. Put some more on top. You can use black olives also. And I'm going to add this dressing in. There we go. A little bit of harissa.
Chef, can you talk a little bit about where your ingredient inspiration comes from for all of these dishes?
Oh yeah, so it's mostly from my travels, I have to say. I think that the world is just full of inspiration, and as a chef, you just have to travel so much and just basically eat your heart out. I just pick out everywhere you go and eat on the street, eat in fine dining, eat in trattorias and people's homes if you can. And you know, this recipe, I mean, it's kind of Tunisian and Moroccan, but I became obsessed with za'atar actually when I was in Israel. And I was just putting it on absolutely everything, and sumac too. I think that's pretty much done. And I like to kind of put the tofu on top to showcase it. So we're gonna, do I have a plate or? Oh, right in front of me. I don't see anything. And actually a bit of lemon. That's what I'm gonna put. A little bit of lemon zest. But yeah, so you know, being a global citizen, I think, is really, really key. And we're, you know, as people who are obsessed with food, you know, just going around the world and trying so many different things and spices. I was in Indonesia just before the pandemic, and as everybody knows, like that's the land of the Spice Islands, and you know, it was just so crazy of just trying, you know. Mace and nutmeg, like the actual fruits, like seeing, I've never had nutmeg fruit before, and fresh mace, which is just off of the tree, and how the spice trade, I mean, it just tells a story of history, and how, you know, like the spice route, you know, brought all of these spices around the world, and, you know, to the point where you can't really imagine, you know, Christmas without nutmeg and cinnamon and cloves and things that they're obviously not from this part of the world. And I think it's just kind of exploring from traveling and really just eating your heart out and not being afraid just to, you know, just basically just try everything. And here we go. I love a nice couscous. This is really nice with like Israeli couscous too, the big couscous, but you know, you can mix a whole bunch of different ancient grains as well and fortify this even more, put, you know, like flaxseed or quinoa, different types of quinoa. So to put some barley, get some more different textures in there, I think is lovely. And then our showcase is our tofu. Oh, okay, well that's fine. And these are kind of crisped up nicely. And I'm going to throw some on top. You can mix it in as well, but sometimes I like to show off the star of the dish. There you go. And just some more mint and parsley on top. Maybe a few more almonds. And that's it. Delicious. I mean, that's a great side dish for anybody. I think anybody would be happy with that. Yum. And then, yeah, I kind of was trying to when I was thinking of recipes, and Ellen was kind of sending me all of this stuff, I was like, well, I'm not going to just do the obvious, you know. I'm going to take their product and try to create something that is not as kind of, you know, obvious and the thing that you just think of right away. And so that was the issue with the bolognese. So everyone's like, okay, pasta, lasagna, or ricotta shells or something. So I was like, well, you know what? I think this would be really good in a shashuka. You know, I love shashuka. It's one of my favorite breakfast things, and I was like, why not? And so we're just going to saute off some veg. There we go. And the onions, some onions and garlic. Oh, there we go. Maybe a bit more. There we go. Bring that down. And we're going to use a cast iron pan. This is one of those great dishes that you just make in one pan, and it can go directly from the table, from the stove to the table. Just keep it going down. This is going to wilt down a lot, so there you go. Some nice color. Again, color means antioxidants and vitamins and minerals. So just let that go. And again, fusing some Korean ingredients in this. I'm adding some gochujang. You can use harissa, but gochujang actually has some of the same flavor notes as harissa. I mean, gochujang is definitely earthier, a bit deeper notes of flavor, and harissa is a bit brighter and singing a bit more. But they both have that like smokiness and that kind of earthiness to it. So I thought actually it works quite well. So why not change it up and add a little bit of Korean flavor here? And the bolognese sauce, you know, it's just a nice tomato-based bolognese with some great, you know, soy-based meat in there. And so why not use it as a base for the shashuka? And let this keep on going. Saute this down. It's quite easy, and I think that you know, people are just looking for easy, quick ways to feed their families that are healthy. And I don't think I don't think people will be able to tell with a lot of these products if the meat's, you know, if it's meat or if it's not meat, because the texture is so much there, and that's the main part of it. And you know, we're seeing it already where, you know, people are kind of, you know, in my past restaurants, when we'd serve some of this like lab-grown meats, they would bring it back because they didn't believe, or send it back, that they thought you've mixed up the real beef or the real chicken with something else. So it's the technology is really getting there, and as it just advances more and more, and the recipes are just becoming better and better and less processed, I think you're going to see more and more people eating this way, which is great, because it's, as you know, just better for us as well, and better for the environment, sustainability, and as long as it just becomes more accessible. I know that in the UK in particular, like, we have a lot of issues with Brexit, and the war in Ukraine is very much affecting us, and you know, prices are spiking because of that, of absolutely everything. But things kind of become more and more affordable going forward. I think it'll be kind of hopefully the same price, if not cheaper, to buy some of these products as well. Yeah. I mean, everybody's quite price sensitive these days, and you know, unfortunately there is a price to sustainability, and until the government kind of supports and, you know, helps us, and hospitality got absolutely clobbered during the pandemic. I had to open and close one of my restaurants 4 times just because government guidelines were all over the place, and it's been challenging. And now, you know, prices across the board are going up. You know, we have this issue of Brexit also, and so we have no labor, no staff. Everybody went home to the continent during COVID, and now they can't get back to the UK without a visa, and companies need to have a sponsorship license, and so there's literally food rotting in the fields. It's actually quite sad because there's nobody there to pick the fruits and vegetables. There isn't a tradition of hospitality in the UK either. You know, in France and Italy, it kind of runs in their veins and their blood, and people consider working in hospitality very much a career. That's not the same in the UK, so there are a bunch of different problems there. But we are thriving still and surviving, and so we will keep calm and carry on, as they say in England. Just going to just add the bolognese, and actually I'm going to add the tomatoes first here. Saute that down first a bit. Again, just kind of boosting that tomato flavor in the shakshuka with some more tinned tomatoes. I kind of slip back and forth between my British and Americanisms, separated by a common language, I think is the famous quote. There we go, let that go. And yeah, let's see. Any other questions out there about anything?
I would love to know how you balance your. I know you were trained. I think we went to the FCI at the same time, actually. How you balance your French training with your Korean upbringing and how that reflects in your cooking.
So I think I use a lot of French technique, I would say, in my dishes. I think that especially when it comes to super refined type of cooking, I do a lot of, fancy dinners, and the expectation is to serve in like 8 different courses, opposed to the traditional way of Koreans with the way we eat, everything kind of comes out at once. It's similar in Mediterranean type cuisines where you get the mezes and the small plates and stuff. And so kind of taking Korean cuisine and putting it into that type of mold, I would say, and just that type of refinement, I guess, as well. And particularly with desserts, I don't think that any of Asia really has that type of dessert expectation, because there's not a history of butter and cream and all of these things in Asia. And so Asian desserts are not as popular around the world as French desserts are, and usually people just want, like a really nice chocolate something or a really nice, creme brulee. So what I do is I take some of the greatest and most loved Western desserts and I'll infuse them with Korean ingredients. And one of my most popular desserts, and I actually had the audacity, I guess, to serve it in Italy, is a tiramisu, so obviously a traditional Italian dessert, and I put red bean in it and also misugaru. And so with misugaru is kind of like Ovaltine. It's like kind of a drink that you have when you're younger, and it's full of different nuts and things. And so I'm just going to put some gochujang in here and dissolve it. And so I'm doing things like that constantly with different flavors from Korean cuisine, and it works brilliantly, I have to say. Even the different types of Korean alcohol that is out there. I'm just putting some caraway and some cumin as well. Different types of alcohol, like one of our fermented rice wines is called makgeolli, and doing like a frozen yogurt with it, or a panna cotta works really, really well. And yeah, so just having fun, experimenting. And with this, I need the bolognese. I didn't use it yet. Yeah, thank you. No worries. Oh yeah, no worries. I'm like, I'm missing something here. There we go. You dump that in.
And have you found that U.S. audiences versus U.K. audiences respond differently to your more plant-forward cooking? Have you found that U.S. audiences versus U.K. audiences respond differently to sort of more plant-forward cooking? Have you found a difference in the approaches?
Yeah, so the U.S. versus the U.K., I would say, I'm in New York a lot. I kind of split my time half and half between London and New York. And New York, I have to say, is just more ahead, I would say. The whole plant-based movement definitely hit New York first and the States first, and then it kind of goes across the seas. I will say, though, that the UK is obsessed with anything Korean. I think that wave has definitely hit, and it's just getting stronger and stronger. And, I'm always surprised because, like, my friends' kids are taking Korean classes, like language classes, and they're obsessed with the Korean dramas and obsessed with with K-pop, and their parents are puzzled by it too. And so it's definitely an interesting time to be Korean. I mean, like when I was growing up, it was all about Japanese culture, and it's definitely changed, and it's funny because I love it, but also at the same time, it's kind of it created this like weird cultural voyeurism, where like people are obsessed, but at the same time, you're like, okay, it's like, and it's interesting because everybody's jumping on the bandwagon, which is great because it's globalizing the cuisine, but people are doing it. They're just calling things that are Korean, and there's nothing Korean about it. Like one of the largest grocery stores there put a gochujang on the shelves, and actually there are two of them. And the first ingredient was red miso, and the second ingredient was paprika. I know exactly. And then there was cumin, allspice, like all different things that like we would never put in Korean cuisine, And then there's a barbecue sauce that I picked off the shelves at one of the biggest retailers, and again, it was tomato-based. It was there was tamarind, lime. I mean, ingredients that we never use in Korea at all. So, it's great that everybody wants to get on the Korean bandwagon, and literally every single fast food chain that is out there in the UK has something Korean, or at least they call it Korean, on the menu. It doesn't taste Korean at all half the time, like I would say 90% of the time, but at least it's causing or creating an awareness, which I enjoy, but a lot of it is kind of done naively, maybe ignorantly, I guess I would say, if I'm being a little bit more harsh, but it's kind of crazy. I don't understand it, but like in Europe, they kind of think of Asia or East Asia as just one big continent, and they don't necessarily recognize or appreciate the cultural differences between Asia, and particularly North and South Asia. And I've been asked questions by some of the leading food critics and interviews of, about why there's no lemongrass and lime in my cooking and coconut. I'm like, can you look at a map? Like we don't grow these ingredients. And so I've actually been, quite shocked at times. And, like especially when I had some of my other restaurants, being compared to other Thai restaurants by name. And, I'm known for my Korean fried chicken, and instead of comparing my Korean fried chicken to maybe like another, like even Japanese fried chicken, but it's comparing it to like Thai chicken wings, which are completely different because it's like there's lime and it's a different flavor profile. And just because they're both the same type of dish, it's like comparing a Vietnamese pho with a Japanese ramen. You just wouldn't do it, but it seems something that just because it's Asian, that is quite fine, and I don't know, but so so I find them a bit ignorant, I guess. But it's getting better. It's definitely getting better. Put one more egg in here. Yeah, so H Mart's my largest and only supplier for Korean ingredients. And Bonchon's not over there yet, but there are a lot of other kind of Korean type of places. Like everybody has some type of Korean thing on their menu. Even Pret has some kind of like spicy pork Korean sandwich on the menu now or something. It's incredible, and usually it's not exactly like I would taste it and not kind of think it was, but it just shows that there's a demand, and it's what the consumer wants, and people are desperate to kind of get a taste of Korean food. And I get a lot of questions because people are just watching the Korean dramas so much, and everyone's like, what are they eating, what are they drinking, and it's kind of these like kind of inquisitive things. And so I feel like I'm acting as like a Korean food and culture demystifier to some extent, because I'm like, that's this and this is this and whatever. and which is great. You know, a part of why I do what I do is because I would love to see Korean flavors go global. You know, I'm part of this kind of like campaign to kind of see Korean food become one of the great cuisines of the world, and as many, you know, Korean chefs out there as there are Italian, and becoming one of these you know, kind of like well-known and loved foods out there. But it is an education at this point, I would say. A lot of people still don't know what Korean food is, or they've had just very kind of like half versions of Korean foods, and there isn't a strong sense of authenticity. But that's fine, you know. I think that if people just become familiar with one ingredient, like kimchi, like everybody knows what kimchi is now. It's even on the cheese like sandwich place menu down the street from me, around the corner, and they're just throwing kimchi. Maybe it's not a great kimchi, but at least it's becoming part of people's vocabulary, and they can actually name kimchi by its proper name and gochujang by its proper name. And so I think it's kind of all part of the learning and the education, and then they'll learn that, you know, like Korea is not a tropical country too, and things like this, and kind of just learn more about the cultural differences within Asia. Yeah. And so this is just going to steam. So the eggs cook, and then we're just going to throw some feta and olives and some parsley on top, and then that's about it. And then you've got a great shashuka, and I always like to serve it with a little bit of bread, so you can kind of like get in there and scoop up all that sauce, and then just eat it. Yeah, but that's pretty much.
What made you decide to use the bolognese for shakshuka?
Because I was trying to think of something that was just a bit more interesting rather than an Italian dish. And, you know, I love shakshuka. And basically, you can use that bolognese for anything that is tomato-based, that is kind of in that realm, you know. You could, you know, try to just use it as a, you know, a base for almost anything that has that kind of like tomato richness to it. So I was trying to think of different ways of using this sauce that people wouldn't think of immediately. And so went out a shashuka, one of the most popular breakfast items, I think, out there. And it's delicious, and the flavors kind of work well with the oregano and on the onions and the garlic, etc. It's not too dissimilar from an Italian bolognese, but absolutely you can use this for, you know, any Italian dish that is out there. And yeah, it's easy because it's cooked already, so it halves the cooking time, you know, and because it's flavored also, you don't have to spend so much time of just like working, you know, because chefs, we just try to get so much flavor into things, and if it's flavored already, I think for the domestic cook, it just makes their life so much easier and quicker, kind of getting dinner on the table. And this is just like a one posh dish, you know, you kind of leave it, just take it right to the table and just sprinkle some stuff on top, and yeah, happy days. Yeah. Anything else?
Do we have any more questions in the audience? Is there anyone else?
What's the product you used in your first dish? What was the meat substitute?
That's the Pulmuone Bulgogi. So that's their beef product, and it comes marinated, but obviously I just kind of double marinated just to boost the flavor. But I mean, I was eating it just right out of the package, and so it actually has a nice flavor in it already. And I like that one in particular because it behaves like meat. You can get that char on it, and it sears, and you get that kind of like caramelization, which I think is key in order to kind of get that like meat authenticity behind it. Yeah.
What else could you see using that bulgogi in potentially? I mean, it looks great. It looks delicious. I would like to eat those tacos right now.
Yeah, I mean, I was just
yeah, out of the package,
just
obviously.
kind of
Yeah.
raw, and yeah, just kind of snack.
The kimchi was vegan when you took it. Is there different kimchi that aren't vegan?
Ah, okay. So kimchi is actually an umbrella term for over 200 different types and varieties of kimchi out there. So most commonly when people say kimchi, it refers to cabbage kimchi, but you can kimchi anything. You can kimchi broccoli, mangoes, radishes, I mean, anything that's going to stand up to the fermentation process, cucumbers, etc. So there are over 200 different types of kimchi out there. Kimchi is kind of like the spaghetti sauce of Korea, I like to say, because every single family, every region has their own version. So my family's kimchi is going to be different than my next door neighbor's kimchi. And these recipes are kind of handed down through generation like heirlooms, and every family has their own type of kimchi. Kimchi traditionally, actually when kimchi was first invented, it didn't have any seafood or fish sauce in it. As Korea became a richer country, you know, these things were introduced also as a form of protein and to spread protein around to the masses to fortify this fermented vegetable product more. But it gives kimchi such a nice umami flavor. So we have an anchovy sauce. It's not too dissimilar from the Thai fish sauce, but it's a bit funkier. It's a little bit cloudier in texture. And also put something called chotkal, which is a fermented fish product. So that can either be, you know, in some places it's just fish, in some places it's squid, it's oysters, all different types of seafood that go in there. And the further south you go in Korea, generally the funkier the kimchi becomes and the stronger, more tasty, versus in the northern region. So there are thousands of different varieties, I guess, if you count all of the different family recipes of kimchi out there. And, you know, people are you know, exploring more with it. I've made it from, like, you know, green mangoes, apples, and things, even fresh kimchis. And generally, historically, kimchi is made once a year in November during the harvest season. And communities would get together and just make hundreds and hundreds of heads of cabbage kimchi and eat it for the rest of the year and distribute it to the whole community. So it's a real part of the culture in Korea and the community. So. Yeah.
And there are certain recipes too that like are better when it's been sitting for a while. I know there's a stew that my friend likes to make that is like with older kimchi, right?
Yeah. So kimchi, you can eat it the day you make it. It's kind of like a salad, or it's quite fresh, and you can eat it 1 or 2 years later. It just keeps getting funkier and better. You can cook with it. You can put it in stews. You can, you know, saute it. I use the juice and make a kimchi Bloody Mary in restaurants, which is amazing. You know. And obviously, because it's a fermented product, it's full of that lactobacillus, which makes it a superfood. So it's very, very good for your gut, and it heals and supports your gut biome. And anything that supports your gut biome is going to support your overall health as a whole. Everybody these days is kind of talking about biohacking your gut, because it really is the link to overall health. If you're digesting your food properly, you're absorbing all your nutrients and your minerals properly, and your immune system's located in your gut also. So if you can biohack your gut and support your gut health and microbiome of your gut through foods like kefir, kombucha, kimchi, etc., then you are going to be a healthier being, 100%. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite kimchi? Do you have a favorite kimchi that you make?
Oh,
it's like picking a child, I'm sure.
So I make my own kimchi, because once you have your own homemade kimchi, you really, it's hard to go to something.
Totally. No, I make my own too. Same. Yeah.
Yeah, and my kimchi is quite funky. There's a lot of stuff in it, and so it's really, really strong. But you know, you don't have time to make it all the time, and the new generation is not really making their own kimchi as much, which is kind of sad. But that's why, you know, you just buy it in stores, and there are a lot of, you know, obviously like plant-forward movements and stuff, and so having a vegan kimchi is obviously important. There is a large demand for it, and you can get around the lack of, I guess, the seafood and that kind of rich complexity by using products like some yeast extract, which they do at Pulmuone. Yeah.
Does anyone else? Oh yes, please.
Yeah, I just have a question. We in the process of using a lot of these plant-based items, especially processed plant-based items, they tend to have a lot of sodium. We feel we're a healthier choice for us. How do you approach it when you're looking at something that's processed, and then the other ingredients that you're adding, where you just actually marinate it a little bit more with soy, we added more sodium. So how do we get around it?
Yeah, so it's, I mean, everybody has their own personal choice. Like, I have a friend who is very much concerned with saturated fats, you know, and coconut oil is a big concern for him because it has a lot of saturated fats. And unfortunately, a lot of these plant-based food items do have a lot of coconut oil and stuff in them. And so he tends to just stay away from it. But yes, no, it is a concern. But I think that everybody just needs to approach it kind of from their own personal health view. I don't have a problem with sodium, but some other people might. It's like my friend has a problem with saturated fats, but some other people might not. Me personally, my biggest concern is just inflammation from having red meat, and it's just harder to digest, etc. And so I think that everybody just has to take on a personalized approach to it all. It is a concern. A lot of I was kind of turned off by a lot of these processed foods before, because I was just reading all these articles. I'm sure everybody's familiar with the New York Times one they did with somebody else, and they compared very high-end dog food to a processed plant lab-grown meat, and the dog food was less processed and technically better for you. But we've come a long way since then. That was a number of years ago, and so the technology is just getting better and better. I've tried ones where I wasn't happy with the texture, or you just kind of get this weird chemical taste to it afterwards. So these products at Pulmuone definitely taste better. You don't have that kind of funny mouthfeel afterwards. I wouldn't be here, I guess. I always have to believe in the product. I mean, I'm just eating it just raw, but yes, it is a concern, is my answer. The technology and the food engineering around it is getting better and better every single day as more R&D is done. I think that there is a demand to create more or less processed plant-based foods items out there, and particularly making it healthy. The line that has always been delivered to me is that this is not a health food product, it is an alternative to meat, but I feel it should be both. It really needs to kind of marry and achieve that balance. So it is an alternative to meat, but I don't want to feel like it's worse for me than actually having chicken or having just a nice steak or just having the real meat product. So, and people become vegetarians or vegans for different reasons also. Some people it is purely based on health. Some people it is about the environment. Some people, have different motivating factors, which are quite personal too. But I feel that we are getting there slowly. Every year it's getting better and better, and particularly with soy, I think that soy's been getting a bad rap because of the GMOs in it and all this stuff, but you can find products that are non-GMO, you can find products that are made organic as well, like I know this tofu's organic. It's just easier on your body, but tailor your diet to you. We are all individuals, a lot of us have different needs, and also it has a lot to do with where we're from. Like I'm Asian, and my epigenetic profile, like I just can't digest dairy that well. It just doesn't do well with me. Whereas, like my boyfriend's Irish, and he can have as much dairy as he wants, and it does nothing to him. So a lot of it is based on the way that we are made. We saw that with COVID, it's affecting people differently based on their biological makeup, and so I think that if just pay attention to how you feel when you eat things, how your body reacts, what you can and cannot digest well. Insulin resistance is also part of this. We can get into a whole medical discussion. I'm very much into well-being too, but plant-based foods and eating more vegetables and rainbows, if you just look at the colors, is always a great way forward, but you have to have your protein also. And I think that's particularly important for women as we age. And so, balancing that level of having all of your great vegetables, but you have to get the protein in there is very important, and also for bone health and mind health, etc. So, yeah.
Wonderful. How are you going to, would you like to be able to plate the eggs? Where is the shakshuka at? Are you?
Oh, I think that's
beautiful. Oh, they look gorgeous.
I'm not
they
going to
look
put it
stunning.
in the bowl because you're just kind of supposed to have it out of the pan, and just some feta. This is, obviously just vegetarian, not entirely plant forward, but I mean, who doesn't love
that still counts.
Feta, right? Some nice salty, and that tang from feta is just delicious. Bit of brininess from some black olives on top, and I'm just going to put them all because I love olives. And some parsley. I mean, it's always nice to refresh things with some fresh raw herbs on top. And that's it. And some nice grilled bread on the side. And that is brunch in
Beautiful.
one pan. And so delicious, yeah.
Gorgeous. Thank you, Chef. Thank you so much for your time today, Chef, and thanks again to our sponsors from Pulmuone. I'm going to introduce my colleague Jennifer one more time. I think she has some announcements. Thank you again, Chef.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. That's great.
Yeah, so we will take a half an hour break, and then we're going to come back here to Ecolab at 11:30 for the last seminar of the day on the Mediterranean Vegetable and Pulse Kitchen, before we will head to lunch where Chef Judy will sign books, and you will be able to taste the plant-based North African couscous salad with crispy Nusoya tofu that she demoed. Thank you.